The Georgia Bulldogs have moved up a spot in ESPN's post-spring ranking. These preseason rankings. We're months away, and ESPN is trying to rank these teams. I think it's hard to do that right now. But the Dogs come in at number 4 in the current rankings. This moves them up one spot. Georgia was ranked number 5 in the most recent rankings that they did before that. And look, the same kind of group of 6 to 8 teams are in the top 8, right? Like you're seeing the same group of 8 just get jumbled around over the course of this offseason as people try to navigate who is the best team in college football. And look, Georgia is going to be up there, right? Georgia may not end up being the best team in college football. Georgia may end up not being top 3, but I'd be hard-pressed to say that the Dogs will not be one of the 10 best teams. And look, they're probably one of the 5 best teams in college football, right? But there are a handful of teams I think have a real legitimate shot to go on and win the national championship. I think that this year, more so than in years past, it feels wide open, or it feels like we don't know as much. I think that's a culmination of a few different things, and I'm excited to dive into that and talk to you about that. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post. Georgia's number 4 in ESPN's current post-spring rankings of the best teams in college football. And I'll go through, you know what? We'll start by just going through this list a little bit. We don't need to go through 25. We'll go to 15. 1, they've got the Penn State Nittany Lions at number 1 at the moment. They do return a lot of key players. They did lose some serious talent like Abdul Carter, Tyler Warren, a couple other guys on the defensive side of the ball. But Penn State has gotten as much buzz as pretty much every other top team in college football this offseason. They've got Clemson at number 2. Clemson is on the rise in people's minds for sure at the moment. Cade Klubnik is on the rise in people's mind. Their quarterback who's entering, year 4, right? And entering year 3 as the full-time starter. And look, in the previous ranking, Clemson was 7 on this list. And they've risen up to 2 all of a sudden. They've got Texas at 3. They're getting the most buzz in the SEC, but of course Georgia comes in at number 4 on this list. Ohio State falls from 1 to 5. I'm curious. I'll read a little bit of blurb here about that. I don't know if there's an explanation as to why they dropped. I don't see anything that it indicates why. That's an interesting drop to me. LSU at number 6. Notre Dame number 7. Oregon 8. Bama 9. BYU 10. Illinois 11. Georgia took its running back, Josh McCray. Arizona State 12. Quarterback Sam Leavitt is getting a lot of hype. He's getting some Heisman hype. 13. South Carolina. A lot of love from Lenore Sellers there. Iowa State 14. 15 SMU. So I'm not going to go all the way to 25. That's a waste of our time. We'll stick to the top 15. And look, that Penn State, Clemson, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, LSU, and Oregon, that top 8 is pretty much the 8 that you're hearing all this hype about preseason. You know who wasn't in that top 15 was the Tennessee Volunteers, right? The Nico Iamaleava drama. I think people are simmering off of Tennessee. I was kind of simmering off of the Vols as a national title contender anyway, just because I didn't think they were going to have the talent to do so. And look, difficult schedule, right? Now, a lot of these teams that towards the top have very difficult schedules, but I just didn't think Tennessee was going to, I don't know. I just wasn't into that. Penn State, why? That's a legitimate question. Why is Penn State number 1? I think Drew Aller is a big part of that. Now, me personally, I don't think I'm as big of a Drew Aller believer as what the general consensus seems to be. And because I think in the biggest moments he hasn't played his best. I thought in big moments, out of all of them, the one I thought he performed the best in was probably the Big Ten championship against Oregon, which the Nittany Lions ended up losing. But why number 1? To me, with the amount of love that Texas has gotten this offseason, with the hype around Arch Manning, The fact that some of these younger guys are going to get better. They brought back Anthony Hill, Michael Taff. I don't know how to pronounce his name. They got Ryan Wingo. They've got a lot of young talent. They had some key transfer portal additions. They've got just as good as recruiting over the last couple seasons as any other program. And to me, it's surprising that Texas is not. Now, I'm not saying I think Texas will end up being the best team in college football this year, but I'm surprised the Longhorns aren't getting love as the top squad. And they're consistently getting more love than the Georgia Bulldogs. This is what ESPN had to say about Georgia. Thanks to the additions, the transfer portal additions of Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch, Georgia's receiving corps, which was a problem area in 2024, might actually be a strength in 2025. Stockton, who took over in last season's SEC championship game and college football playoff quarterfinal at the All-State Sugar Bowl, had a good spring and should win the starting job. McCray led the Illini with 609 yards and 10 touchdowns last season. His physical running style will complement Nate Frazier. Coach Kirby Smart made Elo Madozi from Army a priority in the spring transfer portal after they lose first-round picks Jalen Walker and Michael Williams. Madozi had 6.5 sacks and 8 tackles for loss for the Black Knights in 2024. And freshman Elijah Griffin, number 1 prospect. So they're talking about everything Georgia brought in. And now there's suddenly a little bit more hype about the Georgia Bulldogs. Look, they got it listed out. Key additions: running back Josh McCray, linebacker Ella Madozi, Noah Thomas, Zachariah Branch receiver, and then Josh Horton from Miami, Jane Harris from Miami, the safety, Adrian Maddox, the safety from UAB. The thing about it's I can't speak on it as well with some of these other teams. I think that Bo Atkinson from North Carolina was a really good transfer portal addition from Ohio State. He should contribute immediately. I think Clemson brought in a couple guys from the portal this year. Jeremiah Alexander from Alabama, who may contribute, right? So I can speak on it a little bit. What I can speak on is Georgia, and the transfer portal addition should matter for Georgia. Brought in 10 guys, and I think between McCray, Noah Thomas, Zachariah Branch, one of the safeties, they brought in 3 of them. Ella Madozi. We're talking about 5 potential starters here, and with Branch, we're talking about a special team starter and a wide receiver. Madozi could end up being Georgia's best pass rusher, and he might be. He's definitely the most experienced in terms of production out of all the pass rushers on Georgia. And is he even here yet? Right? He'll be coming here in the summer, I assume. Adrian Maddox and Jaden Harris and Zion Branch, the 3 safeties that Kirby Smart brought in from the transfer portal, I think that those guys can be contributors. I think that one of them will certainly fight for a starting job. Because, look, to me it looks like Janelle Aguero's the star, the nickelback spot in the defensive back room. And I think that Ja'Cory Thomas has the lead on those guys to be the safety opposite of KJ Bolden, who is arguably Georgia's best defensive player, most talented defensive player perhaps. One of those guys is going to fight with Ja'Cory Thomas. Now, I don't know who's going to win. I think Ja'Cory Thomas has the lead on it right now. But, I mean, that's huge, right? And this is a program that's traditional, and Kirby Smart is a traditional type of coach. He doesn't want to use the transfer portal. Well, maybe that's not the best way to put it. He doesn't want to rely on the transfer portal to create a very good roster, right? Georgia, specifically Kirby, wants to bring high school talent in and develop them and have them be here for 3 to 5 years. Now, Georgia brought in a very good recruiting class, a top 3 recruiting class, like the ESPN blurb mentioned. One of the top recruits in Elijah Griffin, who's expected to be in the rotation on the defensive line as a true freshman. I don't know how many freshmen outside of him will get in. I think Isaiah Gibson and Darren Ickenogban, edge rushers, can definitely fight their way on the field. They look like physical freaks. But to me, Georgia's starting to get a little bit more love from the national media after spring. And to me, it seems because of the transfer portal. What do you think about these rankings? Georgia's number 4 in the post-spring, way too early top 25 from ESPN.